So, three treasures. Buddha, the fully awakened one. What does the fully awakened one mean? Dharma, the compassionate teaching. What does compassionate teaching mean? Sangha, the harmonious community. What does the harmonious community mean? So if we look at the sequencing of Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, it required a finding by Sakyamuni Buddha of what we call the laws, the three laws of impermanence, interconnectivity, inner R, and dukkha. What do those mean? How is that used? And his finding that, after sitting under the Bodhi tree, as the legend goes, he was faced with the question of, so what do I do with it? Supposedly, Brahman intervened and said that, well, you should teach. Teach who? He might have asked. And how, he could have asked. And the what was the major concern, because he was not sure that others would get the what. Legend has it that for several weeks he contemplated this, and finally thought he would go speak to the two senior teachers that he had while he was a mendicant. However, both had died, so his second choice was the group of ascetics with whom he camped out and was with for a number of months toward the end of his journey before his awakening. It is important to think of this particular activity, this particular situation in which the Buddha approaches these five people. They don't recognize him. However, they see something in him that is telling. A tell in poker means that you see something significant that indicates how that person is going to play their hand. What they saw in Sakyamuni Buddha was enlightenment. Now, what does that mean? They saw within him the light unto himself. Recognizing this, the first step in understanding the meaning of awake. When he spoke with them, they became very aware of what his teaching was. Four Noble Truths, Noble Eightfold Path, three laws, as the foundation that anyone could use to do what he had done. And that is having come to an understanding, an awareness through experience of the meaning of Tathagata, neither coming, neither going. This sense of awareness became a way of life that began at that time with the invention or the creation of Sangha. Harmonics have been an interest of mine. I'm not a musician, but I do like the skandhas because each of the skandhas has its own immense legacy and information about its meaning. And each one of the skandhas represent a dharma gate from emptiness or mu into the reality of Inmo. And in this way, we as a form have dharma gates with the five skandhas that open us up both to the temporal and to the absolute. As a matter of fact, these gates are not gates at all, but are simply umpaya that we use to suggest what is happening. This is most important, as we know, because everything we use to try to describe anything is illusionary. It's based on a particular perspective and has to be sounded out or looked at clearly, or tasted thoroughly, or touched intimately, or heard strongly in order for us to have a sense of its depth. We call this intimacy. You'll see what I think is a very good example of harmonics in sangha, and that is an orchestra. It's the case the John Williams Orchestra with the theme from Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Bom, 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 bom. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. Bum. This attempt at communication was also something that we find in every different type of group. My background is in organizational sociology, and my specialty was what we referred to as closed groups. These were small groups that were somewhat isolate. For example, a monastery, a submarine, a hospital, a prison, and a sangha. So what happens in that sangha, in the sangha, is that you take the life of Buddha, the teachings of Buddha, and in the crucible of the sangha, you work through it. Round and rolly, slippery and slick, the Dharma manifests itself through the harmonics of the sangha. Harmonics simply refer to things that fit together that seem to be of a rapidity or a cyclical nature that are not the same, but the fit, the interconnectivity is strong. If you look at harmonics from the standpoint of the Four Noble Truths, the Noble Eightfold Path, our precepts, and paramitas, you see a combination of things that must occur in order for the ethics of Buddha, the teachings of Buddha, to be alive in the sangha of the teaching Buddha. In this way, what we have is all different kinds of things coming together to create a symphonic resonance. What a wonderful bell, by the way. The sound of the bell in Zoom was, and I've done a lot of Zoom with bells, and yours is the best. So you got the best Zoom bell. What happens when things resonate? Well, if we are in a group of two or more people and we have a dialogue, we try to find the meaning of this relationship that we are experiencing. This meaning is something we take away that expands us. It opens us. The teachings, our practice, is an opening process. We're opening the form to such an extent that it becomes infinite. The closed form becomes infinite, its true form. So as we look at this, it's kind of interesting if you looked at the two things in the first two readings I suggested. One was Ananda talking to Sakyamuni Buddha and questioning the importance of sangha. And the world honored one said, it is the end all and be all, my words. It is the end all and be all because it is through sangha that everything then is propagated. And then you can define sangha in a narrow way or in a much broader way. Cosmic sangha, for example. The second is to look at the characteristics of harmonic relationships. So look at your own relationships with a family or your sangha or with another, and look at the different chords that you strike throughout the day. We say discord is when they don't seem to jive. They're not copacetic in jazz. Rather, they seem a little off, a beat off, a twitch away, a bridge a little too far. But it is that discord, I suggest to you, that creates the sangha. There's a teaching relative to Sariputra in which, leaving to go on Ango, a practitioner felt he was slighted by Shariputra. At that, when Shariputra passed him without acknowledging him, he felt very offended. He took this to Ananda, who took it to the Buddha. The Buddha asked for a runner to go bring him back, Shariputra back. And he was presented with the case. Shariputra's response is referred to as the lion's roar. It went something like this. Am I the kind of person, you all know me, who would do this? Am I the kind of person who would slight my brother? Am I the kind of person who would do these things? And I say to you categorically, yes, I could have. I also reach out to my brother with apology that if this was what he felt, my karmic, my vital reaction now is one of asking for forgiveness. So within the harmonics of Sangha, we have all of the things that we have and all of the things of politics and pettiness and economics and cliques and so forth that we have anyplace else. Yet it is in Sangha that we accept all of this. And in so doing, we are on the journey that in contemporary times has been captured by Gandhi, also by Martin Luther King Jr. The Beloved Community is a series of speeches that he gave while he was in both Birmingham and later on in Memphis in '68, before he was assassinated. The Beloved Community was also a tone struck in the I Have a Dream speech. And it represents the ability of the best angels of us to enter into an intimate relationship which reduces the suffering in ourselves and others. And as a result of that, there is no greater opportunity nor place in which to be awake. We then are faced with that same question that the Buddha had. What do you do about it? What do you do with this that you have uncovered in yourself? Do you hide it under a bushel? Do you interact at the local level with your local sangha? Do you go into the community and share the Dharma there as well? So as I close, I'd like to emphasize the next part, which is what I would call the social action component of Sangha. There is a lot of discussion in terms of social action events, peacemakers, a variety of other Buddhist organizations that are involved in engagement, community engagement. Mel Weissman comes to mind, and that we all have that opportunity, and we all do it to some degree. And as we do that, we enliven our local sangha. Our local sangha then is enlivened. We go into the community is enlivened to the degree that it is in Mo, thus, and we continue this work, this effort, this way of life, living by vow, as Okamura Roshi would say. It is this that is sangha. We are sangha, you are sangha, just as you are Dharma and you are Sakyamuni Buddha. So for me as a practitioner, I've come to understand two things. One, as far as I know, I'm the only fully transmitted Soto Zen priest to come from Forsyth, Georgia. Forsyth, Georgia is about 3,000 souls. And number two, that it is what I find most wonderful, is living our way of life, being engaged with everyone, but particularly my Sangha and people like you, and having the opportunity to be a bodhisattva. Bodhisattvas carry the message, emphasize the message, respond to the message, and help all that wish to follow the same way. Gasho.